ladies, that was amazing. Thank you for allowing us to honor you in this way. Saints, this morning's gospel, the widow and the judge, is all about persistence. All about persistence and never ever giving up. And you heard in the story this morning about the unjust judge, right? The unjust judge. I call him the lazy judge, the judge that really wasn't very excited about dispensing justice, but enjoyed being up in front of people, and enjoyed wearing his robes, but this widow would not be denied. This widow would not be denied, and there's some interesting symbols, a little bit of hidden messaging in this gospel. So, why a judge and why a widow? Well, the judge represented everything that was society, all the organizational structures of society that, including the church, that often do not give justice when justice is due. And the character of the widow, I believe, was selected because next to the leper, there wasn't a person in first century Judaism with less power than a widow. When you lost your husband, you basically lost the entire connection to your family. And unless you were willing, unless your husband's brother was willing to marry you, you were really cast out of the family with no resources or means of support. So in this widow, we see this tenacity, right? This strength, this spirit of, I will not be denied what is rightfully mine. I will not be denied what I've been waiting for. And she comes back and comes back and comes back. And finally the judge and the gospel says, not because he loved people or loved justice, but just because he was so tired of this woman coming back, said, okay, you win. Finally, I will give you your justice. So throughout the years, this gospel has been interpreted in a number of ways. One of the first ways is to remind us about our tenacity in prayer. And that Francis tells us, until we have prayed, we have done nothing. And in the Rule of Life of St. Francis, the last piece of the Rule of Life is pray always. Pray always. And that indeed is a wonderful message. But tenacity and persistence and other things, in addition to prayer, is part of who we are as followers of the Jesus way. In the world of social justice, tenacity is what we're about. We have not yet achieved that justice and that honor and that equality that we've strived for so many years. Out in the world, those seeds of racism, those seeds of disrespect for our LGBTQ brothers and sisters still are planted and still amazingly continue to grow. Persistence, never giving up in our call to prayer and to social justice. But I can't think of two better examples of persistence than these two amazing women who sit before you today. And I'm embarrassing both of them. And both of them, I like to call them sisters of the tall grass. They don't like to be out front. They don't like to be center stage. They like to be behind the scenes. They are the worker bees. And so I'm going to embarrass them mightily today by actually bringing their stories forward. You know, Donna and Cheryl both have shown amazing persistence in answering the call, answering God's call to the diaconate. In both of these women, that call is so strong and so deeply recognized by this church that it's really amazing that it took so long, but it did. And the church is slow to move, sometimes like a giant dinosaur. And but eventually, usually, we get things right. And in this case, we certainly did. Donna's journey to the diaconate was 10 years. 10 years from the time she declared that I perceive a call to be a deacon. 10 years until this day, next week, where she'll stand before the altar and the bishop will lay hands on her, tell her to go out into the world and do good. Cheryl, the same. I know yours has been 7? 6. 6 years. 6 years from the time that she said, I want to serve, till the time the church said yes. Yes. We said yes long ago, and fresh in these women's mind are all the journeys and the meetings and the questionings and the interrogations about why they want to do what they do. Why do you want to do this? Why? Tell us about your call. And so they've surpassed every challenge. They've answered every question. And now, with persistence that equals the widow in the gospel, they're about to receive justice. They're about to receive what has been theirs all along. That gift from God, which is their call, that sometimes we as a church have the audacity to delay or decline. In talking with Cheryl and Donna, I'm reminded of my own journey, my own discernment journey, and while it wasn't quite as long as theirs, it was equally painful. I remember going through countless meetings with a group called the Commission on Ministry. Commission on Ministry, who was designed to see if I was truly meant to be a priest or not. If I was truly meant to be a priest or not. So I remember meeting after meeting and question after question, and so finally, when it was all over, I was awaiting my letter. What was going to happen? And so finally there it was in the mail from the Commission on Ministry of the Diocese of Montana. And I remember opening the letter and it said, congratulations, by a vote of 7-5, we have agreed to put you forward. As you can tell, it wasn't an overwhelming testimonial to my call, 7-5, and I thank those 7 that voted for me, and those 5, you know who you are, and here I am, 21 years later. So there, yeah. But my point is that we never give up, and we never give up on the Jesus way or on our community here. We are called to this place and this time. We are called to be part of this family. You're called because you're supposed to be here. That's why you're here, because you're supposed to be. And we are called to be one and to support this family and to make sure we can always do the work that needs to be done. And so as we continue that work, we ask you to think about how you're doing God's work with your heart and your hands. How will you help us to continue reaching out into the world like Donna and like Cheryl, reaching out into the world to do good with groups like Babies in Need and the Lincoln Partnership and our WHO relationships and our Traveling Day Society. And simply just being here, being this sanctuary, being this respite for people who are spiritually searching and longing to find a family. And get to come inside this place and feel you and feel the experience of Jesus. Persistence. We never give up. We never give up. One other interpretation of this gospel that I really find interesting is that that oftentimes we are the judge and Jesus is the widow. Jesus is the widow. Jesus is persistent in his call to us. Once he gets a little sniff of us, he is never going to stop until we open our arms, our minds, our hearts, and our spirits to him. Even though sometimes, like the unjust judge, we're lazy or too bored or too proud to listen, Jesus and the widow are always there calling us back, asking, pleading, demanding, I'm here. I want to be in relationship with you. I want to connect with you. And finally, most of us say yes. Some reluctantly, some joyfully, like our two ladies. So I ask that for you this day as we move forward out into the world. We never give up. We never say no. We continue to walk our journeys like Cheryl, Donna, courage and dignity and honor, proclaiming the gospel, being God's hands and hearts in the world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.